Welcome to Just Minding My Business. I'm so happy that you dropped by. And today I have Brian Will, who is a WSJ best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, and industry-leading business and sales management consulting. Over the course of his career, he has created or co-created 10 companies across five different industries worth over $500 million at their peak. And he is here today to give us the psyche around sales. So, welcome, Brian. I can't wait to jump into this.
Ida, I appreciate you having me on Just Minding My Business podcast today. It's going to be fun.
Yes, yes, indeed. So, the psychology of sales and negotiation, because I think
Yes.
a lot of us are thinking some magic potion, or I don't know what we think, but we don't, some of us don't think at all about, don't know how to think about it. Let's put it that way. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, Ida, when we talk about sales, and I've trained thousands of salespeople, and people ask me this question all the time. Well, what makes a great salesperson? And I always tell people, I know great salespeople that talk fast, talk slow, talk Southern, talk corporate. I know some are folksy, some are. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is, are you able to connect with the person you're talking to? And there's certain things that go into that, but people get too hung up on, how they sound or what they're supposed to say, when really I tell people all the time, if you will just be you and have a conversation with somebody like they were your best friend or your next door neighbor and quit acting like a dang salesperson, your sales will go way up.
Wow. So just be you.
Just be you. There's certain things you need to be able to do and know, but the biggest one is be you. Just be you. People, it's like here's an example I always use, Ida, and I see salespeople do this all the time. Like, I'll be having a conversation with you right here, and then I'll say, okay, now try to sell me this calculator. And you'll go, okay, so Ida, I've got this calculator here and it's really, really good. And I'd like to talk to you about why all these buttons are awesome. And I always go, who are you? You just changed your entire personality. Your voice went up an octave. You started talking fast. You're fake excited. People know you're fake when you do that, as opposed to, oh, you want to buy a calculator? Why? Based like if your best friend said, I want to buy your calculator, you might say, well, why? Okay, well, I need to add stuff up. All right, well, I can help you with that. It just learn to have a conversation and be you, and you will be twice the salesperson you are today.
Wow. And that's like so super simple when you
You'd
really
think,
think about it.
but people think they have to be a salesperson. Ida, have you ever been in a situation where somebody was trying to sell you, and in your mind, you're thinking, wow, this person sounds like a salesperson?
Hmm.
Have you ever done? Yeah, we all have. And I always think, just stop. Just stop and have a conversation with me. Quit trying to sell me something.
Yes, yes, indeed. Wow. So, why do you think people feel like they have to go into this other person to sell? Why do you believe they think that?
I don't think a lot of times people that get into sales are comfortable with selling because they think that you're trying to convince people of something. In order to convince them, you have to be excited and you have to be, spunky, and you have to and you really don't. People see right through that. So, um, if I can just teach somebody to be yourself, and then the second rule we always tell people is stop talking. Have you ever had a salesperson, Ida, just won't stop talking?
Yeah, I have.
We all have. Because salespeople, you go into sales and suddenly you think that you have to know everything and explain everything, and you have to be able to explain everything there is to know about everything. And the client, the rule of thumb is they're only going to remember 30% of what you say anyway. So the more you talk, the less they hear, and
Mm,
certainly the less they remember. So if you can say things in as few of words as possible, again, your sales will go up. So have a conversation, and I'm a little crass here. Have a conversation and learn to shut up.
I like that. I like that. Wow. So, building and scaling high performance sales teams,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Most organizations that have sales teams that have over, we'll call it 5 to 7 people, once you cross that line, you have to, as an organization, understand that your sales is driven more by data than it is by lead flow or individual salespeople. So, in order to build a high performance sales team, you need to understand the data behind what you're doing. And so, if I get a little technical with you here, sales isn't just sales. Sales starts with the company budget that gets allocated to marketing. And then the marketing person or people have to take that budget, the budgetary money, and split it amongst different marketing channels. And each one of those channels has to be managed individually to determine which channel brings in leads at the lowest cost. And then each one of those leads has to be analyzed to find out which one turns into the highest sale per dollar. And so once marketing generates leads and we determine what leads generate the most revenue, then it goes to the sales department. And then the sales department has to take those leads, spread it out amongst the sales team, and then measure every single salesperson's productivity. How many leads did they get? How many closes did they get? What's their average revenue per close? And so all that data needs to get fed in. And so at the end of the day, you have this waterfall of budget, number of leads, cost per lead, what salesperson got it, how many did they sell, and how much revenue per lead. And then you start balancing all that out. And I call it a profit and loss statement by individual salesperson. Every salesperson is their own little profit and loss. Most companies look at sales organizations from the top down and they say, oh, if we hire more salespeople or spend more money, we'll get more revenue. You might, but you might also be losing money, right? Because remember, those salespeople, if I give 5 people each 10 leads, and salesperson 1 generates 10,000 and salesperson 5 only generates 1,000, well, salesperson 5 is losing money. So giving him more leads, spending more money on marketing for this person is a loss. So I can tell you every single organization I've ever gone in and analyzed their sales department, we end up laying off the bottom 20% of the sales force because we find out when I pull the data that they're actually losing money for the company. And then we take the dollars that we were spending to give them leads and move it over to the high performing people. You spend the same amount of money, but you get more revenue and you have happier salespeople because they're making more money. This happens every single time because sales is about data as much as it is about the product. That was a little complicated. I got a little technical there.
No, but it made perfect sense when you think about it because it's not just the salesperson. There's money that has to be spent on leads. The people
Yeah.
that you are selling to just don't drop from the sky.
Yeah.
You've got to find them. And with that being said, so with the sales person scenario, the one making $1,000 versus the one making 10, I think in terms of being a salesperson in that type of industry, there's a lot of pressure on salespeople to meet quotas. And a lot of times that's in the back of their mind.
Yes.
When they're doing their job. So how do you help them dispel that and just focus on the task at hand?
The 2 biggest things, we'll go back to them, right? The first thing we do is we tell them to stop acting like a salesperson. Nobody likes a salesperson. I like to use examples that are super obvious. So how many times have you ever went to buy a car on a car lot, and when you see the salesperson, you try to avoid them?
Most of the
because you don't
time.
want them coming. Yeah, you don't. Oh, here he comes. Here she comes. I don't want to talk to the salesperson, right? Because you have this negative thing in your mind about salespeople because they're high pressure and they're going to try to get you to do something and buy money, spend money and buy something. And that is the way people tend to view salespeople. So if you act like a salesperson, people will treat you like a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I use this example, Ida, and we'll go back to car sales because everybody understands that dynamic. I remember when I bought my first Mercedes-Benz. This was a long time ago. And I remember going to the Mercedes-Benz dealership and I get out of my car and I was on the lookout for the car salesman because I didn't want to talk to him, right? And I'm looking around, and you're hiding behind cars and nobody ever came out to see me. And after a while, I was thinking, well, I actually want to look at a car now and there's nobody to help me. So I walked into the dealership and I was looking around and somebody goes, well, can I help you? And I said, well, yeah, I'm interested in a car. And the guy goes, all right, come here. Had a big leather couch in his office. And he said, have a seat. And he says, what are you looking for? And he just started having a conversation with me. And I bought a car that day. And that is a completely different experience from going down to, your local used car dealer and somebody stalking you out in the parking lot trying to get you to buy something. So they understood in high quality, high end sales, learn to have a conversation. That's number one. And number two, don't over talk when you're in the sales process. And remember, people are only going to remember 30% of what you said. So the more you talk, the less they hear, the less they remember. And then you confuse people, and then they don't want to admit they're confused, and they don't want to admit they don't understand what you're talking about. And so then they don't buy from you. And they say things like, I got to get with my spouse, or I got to think about it, or I'm looking around, or I'll call you back. Really, what you've done is talk them out of the sale.
Mm.
So we have to teach people to be yourself, have a conversation, and talk less. And if I can do those two things, then we get into specifics on product and details and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is a conversation. Don't overtalk. Ask a lot of questions.
Wow.
Those are the big two.
So let me ask you, if companies want to connect with you, how do they do so?
My website is brianwillmedia.com. brianwillmedia.com. My books, my training programs, I've got online training programs, video training programs, everything is my speaking stuff is all there. So that's the easiest way to get me.
Okay. So when you're working with companies, because I know there's a lot of old school salespeople that wasn't taught this way. And you know what I'm talking about,
Sure.
So how do you support them in making that shift?
So typically, if I do an engagement with a company, the first thing I do is I go in. For instance, the last one I did, I went in, they had 7 salespeople, and I scheduled to go out with each one of them and just watch. And if I just go and watch you in the sales process for 3 or 4 hours, I can immediately tell you what you're doing wrong or what you need to improve because it's very obvious. And then we'll sit down with each one of those people, have a conversation, talk about the things that they're doing, whether they confuse the client, overtalk the client, oversell the client. All these things are very, very typical. And so we do that with each individual sales rep. If it's a larger type of organization, we do it in a structured meeting process. But if I've got 30 people in a room, I bring up their top people and their bottom people. We make them do training scenarios in front of the group, which are funny because everybody screws up. Even if you're the best salesperson, you're going to mess up in front of a group. But it's you get people get to criticize you, and then you get to criticize other people, and eventually you figure out that you're all messing it up. So let's just fix it. So depends on the size of the group. We have pretty basic things that we teach along the way that we hammer into people. So the last one I went in, we increased their close ratios from 27 to 33% within 30 days.
Wow.
So that's 5% on 10 million in sales. It was huge. Then we built their P&L trackers and ended up letting a couple people go. And that's how you build high performance teams.
Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, Brian is your guy. Because I mean, I'm already learning some things. Just be me and shut
Yeah,
up.
be you. Just be you. And just remember, the more you talk, the less they remember. That is just the number one rule.
Yes,
And I say the number three rule is don't you don't have to tell everybody about everything. And I'll give you one more easy example. So when you go in, I love car sales because it's such an extreme example. When you go in to buy a car and you walk on the lot and the salesman says, well, what kind of car are you looking for? And let's say you want a Chevy Tahoe. Okay. Does he hand you the owner's manual and say, here, I need you to read the owner's manual before I'm going to let you look at this car? Does he
no.
ever do that? No, because all the details are not important. He says, what color, cloth or leather, do you want to take it for a ride? That's it. And you say, well, yeah, great. Let me grab the keys, because he wants you sitting in the car, falling in love with what it's like to be in this car. All the details don't matter.
Mm.
Too many salespeople think, well, I have to tell them about the engine and the horsepower and the warranties and the electric windows and what kind of tires, and nobody cares. They want to know if it's cloth or leather, if it's automatic or standard, and let's take it for a ride. And I'm just going to drive around pretending like my friends are seeing me in this cool car. If I can get you to fall in love with the experience, the details don't matter. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Fall in love with the product, not the details. So be yourself, have a conversation, talk less, don't get into too many details. It's not important right now. Your sales are going to go way up.
Okay, well, that's three things right there. And they sound easy to do. Very
Yeah.
easy to do. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about ego
Okay.
and how that affects business decision making. Let's just talk about that a little bit.
Ego is a business killer.
Mhm.
Okay. And for two reasons. The first one is because too many entrepreneurs, when they start a business, think that they have all the answers, or they think that they need to have all the answers. And if I think that I need to have all the answers, that makes me unwilling to listen to the team members around me. And the reality is, you don't have all the answers and you don't know everything. And people that work for you in many cases are smarter than you, and you need to be listening to them. Smart entrepreneurs surround themselves with people who are better than they are at whatever those people do. Too many young entrepreneurs think they have to be the smartest person in the room. That's number one. And that's an ego problem. The second ego problem is this. If your business starts to grow, and let's say that you're having success and you're working 40 hours a week, and your business grows a little more, and suddenly you're working 50 hours a week, and then your business grows some more and you're working 60 and 70 hours a week. You have a successful business, but you're not killing yourself. And we didn't start businesses to kill ourselves. People start businesses so that they can spend more time with the family, take more vacations, have more fun, have freedom. They didn't start to work 70, 80 hours a week and get burned out. Entrepreneur burnout is a cliche. The reason they're getting burned out is their ego is not allowing them to hire people to bring them into the organization to do things that the entrepreneur should not be doing, right? We call this delegation.
Mhm.
Your ego is not allowing you to delegate. And I'm telling you that delegation is the only way that your business will ever scale past a certain point. And it's the only way that you will keep yourself from working 80 hours a week and getting burned out. I'll give you an example. I have a client who owns a pest control company, and he says, I'm working 70 hours a week. And I said, you need to hire somebody to manage the company. And he said, but if I hire somebody, what if they don't do everything the way I want it done? I said, okay, that's going to happen. If you hire somebody that's 70% as good as you, that's a home run. But if you have 5 people that are 70% as good as you, that's 350% of your personal productivity.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what could you do if you weren't answering the phones and doing the billing and doing the accounting and writing up the invoices and driving up? He said, oh my gosh, that's like 70% of my time. I could go out and actually make the company bigger. I said, that's exactly right. Your ego won't allow you to hire somebody because you don't think they're as good as you. And because of that, your company will never grow past where it is.
Mm.
That's an ego problem. You got to learn to delegate. So learn to delegate. Don't think that you're the only one that's supposed to have all the answers. Those two big things are the things that will kill you that are ego driven.
Yes, yes, indeed. And that's probably led into the next question about the real reason companies struggle to scale. And I can let,
Delegation.
yes, yes, you gotta let it go.
100% delegation. Then they make the mistake of delegating and they delegate down. And so I'll go back to my pest control guy, right? I said, you need to hire somebody and you're going to pay him $100,000 a year. And he said, oh my God, but I found somebody that I can pay 40. And I said, well, you're going to get a $40,000 person. And all you're going to get is frustrated, mad, angry, and you're going to eventually fire them because they're not at the level of management that you need in order to run your company. So you've got to hire the right people, and the right people cost money, period.
Mm.
And if you'll do that, it will allow you to free your time up so you can build the business bigger, and it becomes a cycle of growth. If you hire down, you will spiral down every single time.
Mm. Yes, because that person that's you pay more, that's motivation right there, for them to put their best foot forward. And that person probably has skills that you can't even imagine that they have.
Yes. Yeah. So, but be willing to let them fail. Be willing to let them not do it exactly the way you wanted or the way you did it. And then free your time up to go build the business, grow it, and make it bigger. That's the key to growth is delegation. 100% key to growth is delegation.
Mhm. Okay, so failing business. Okay, you're not there. So how do you turn that failure into success? How do you do that?
Yep. So, Ida, have you ever met anybody that like everything they touch turns to gold? Like they win. Have you ever met anybody that everything they do seems to fail?
Yeah, I have.
So my first book is called The Dropout Multi-Millionaire. And one of the concepts, the primary concept in that book is what we call your personal filter. And your personal filter works like this. Everything you've ever done, seen, heard, experienced in your entire life is sitting in your brain, in your subconscious, acting as a filter. And that starts with when you were a child, the things your parents told you, when you went to school, the things your teachers told you, when you had friends, the peer pressure, and it goes up through high school, college, your job, any businesses you've done, everything in your life, the books you read, the TV shows you watch, the social media, the podcasts, everything you've ever experienced creates this mental filter. So we talk about these people that they either everything they touch turns to gold or everything they touch seems to fail. And this gets back into what we call your personal filter, right? So everything you've ever done, everything you've ever seen, every book you've ever read, every person you've ever known, from your parents to your teachers to your friends, the people you work with, if you went to college, everything, the podcasts you listen to, create a mental filter. And that filter sits in your subconscious and it filters information that's coming at you. So I asked the question, Ida, has anybody ever told you something and you went, no, that's not true?
Mm-hmm.
We all have.
Yes.
And we say that because our filter, based on everything we've ever done or known, rejects that information and says, no, that's not true. Like somebody's sitting listening to me right now going, no, that's not true. And somebody else is going, oh my God, that's amazing. Okay? Because your filter determines what information you will accept and what information your brain will reject. And it does it in real time. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Blink. And the basis of the book is that you make decisions in the blink of an eye and you don't even know you're doing it. And those blink decisions are based on what's in here, based on everything that you've ever experienced in your life. Okay. So if you have somebody who constantly wins and constantly succeeds at things, they have a success filter. And when information comes at them, they process that information on their past successes and make a determination on whether they're going to act on it or believe it or not. Then you have people who consistently fail. When that information comes at them, they process it through a failure filter, and then they accept or reject and act or don't act on that information. And this is why people who succeed a lot tend to succeed a lot, and people who fail a lot tend to fail a lot, because they're processing information based on that filter. So you with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you accept and reject information, and you do it without even thinking, right? If I told you that, this pen is bright blue, you'd say, no, it's not, because everything in my past says that that pen is silver and black. Okay? That's how the filter works. Now, I have a failing business. Probably I have a failing filter because I don't know how to make that business successful. So there's really the most effective way that you can find out if you can fix this business or if this business needs stopped. And that is to find somebody who has had success doing what you're doing and ask them. Because they can walk in and look at your business based on their success filter and go, that's not going to work. Or it'll work, and this is what you're doing wrong. Find somebody that has had success doing what you want to do, which is running a business or whatever it is you're doing, and ask. We call this bringing in a consultant, a mentor, a coach, someone to help you, someone to ask questions to. Hey, man, this doesn't seem to work. Why is it? And somebody with success will go, because of A, B, and C. You fix those three things and it'll work. Or they might come in and say, what were you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll give you a good example. In my little town where I live, there was a nice lady, and every Saturday at the farmer's market, she would sell little pies for $5. And there was always a line at her booth every Saturday. People loved her pies. And somebody told her, you should open up a store. And so she went and spent $250,000 to open up a pie store with $6,000 a month of rent instead of a $50 booth at the farmer's market. And guess what happened? She failed.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't sell enough $5 pies to pay $6,000 in rent. But she didn't know that because she'd never been successful. She'd never built a business. She'd never done anything like that. She made a bad decision. Mm-hmm. If she'd have asked me, I would have said, don't do it. I'm telling you right now, you can't sell enough pies to cover the rent, let alone make a profit and make a successful business out of this. Because I've been there and done that. I've seen it. I know how business works. Mm-hmm. But she did it, and she failed, and she lost a lot of money. And that happens every day in this country. Every day, all day. 5 million new businesses start every year, and 80% of them will fail because people don't know what they're doing. And they don't bring in somebody to help them make good decisions. So maybe your business is not going to work ever. Maybe it's not working because you're doing something wrong. You need to find somebody to help you make that decision.
And then that also goes back to ego.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
Yes. Don't think that you need to know everything. Don't think that you need to have all the answers, because you don't. As good as you are, I'll give you a great example. One more great example. This is my book, right? This is the one we're talking about. It's called No, The Psychology of Sales and Negotiation. That was my third book. When I wrote it, I sent it to the publisher, and I gave him a jacket cover. And the publisher came back and said, that jacket cover won't work. And I said, no, you don't understand. I've already written 2 books. One of them is a Wall Street Journal bestseller. This is what I want to do. And she said, that won't work. And I argued with her for about 5 minutes because of my ego. And finally, it dawned on me that I'm not taking my own advice. And I thought, wait a minute, she's published hundreds and hundreds of books. I've done 2. And I said, you're right. Do what you want to do. We did this cover, and it became a Wall Street Journal bestseller in the first 2 weeks.
Wow.
If I'd have done it my way, who knows? But sometimes you just have to step back and think, hold on a second. This person knows way more than I do about this.
Yes, and it's so easy for the ego to slip in there,
Yes.
especially when you've had some level of success.
Yes.
You get the feel in yourself, so as the elders say.
Hey, Ida, do you know who Tim Cook is?
Say that
He's the
again.
CEO of, you know who Tim Cook is?
Who
Tim
is
Cook is the CEO of Apple Computer.
okay?
They're a $3 trillion company, right? Tim's got to be a pretty smart guy. Tim has 12 people on his board of directors, and he has a personal coach that helps him make decisions. So if Tim Cook needs 13 people, what makes you think you can do it all by yourself?
True, 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 and more true, and
Yes.
something to definitely simmer on. Wow. So, how do people get the books, Brian?
On my website or on Amazon. My books are all on Amazon. There's four of them. You can look it up under my name, Brian Will. You can go to the website, Brian Will Media. You can order them there. Uh, I'm very easy to find, very Googleable, as they say.
Well, has been a pleasure as always, and you were just so straight to the point. No fluff, no. I mean, easy to do, but here we go with easy not to do. You know how it works with people.
Yes. Who's got time for fluff, Ida? I don't.
I know. It's nobody does. It's like, please, let's get to the point. But I really believe you dropped a lot of great gems for this audience, and I've definitely taken some things away that I will be working on. And I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share this with us because, all of us want to succeed. And it's people like you that help us move the needle. And I appreciate that.
I appreciate you having me on the show today. It was fun.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, audience. We appreciate you as well. Thank you.